Every video and episode of the It's Cavalier podcast is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoy the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos, podcasts, member shoutouts, and more. And as always, thank you for watching. Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier podcast. It's your boy, Mac. And you know what? I don't usually get up here and discuss just regular old free agent signings, but I got to tell you, this one stings a little bit. If you guys are not aware, it has been recently reported by Shams, no more Woj. Shams reported that veteran free agent guard Malcolm Brogdon has signed a one-year deal with the New York Knicks. The Cavaliers probably their biggest competition, I think, heading into next season within the Eastern Conference. They added depth, an area on the court at which the Cavaliers I really had wished were able to add depth to, and that is at guard, with Darius being uncertain to begin the season, with Max Strus likely to miss the first couple of months of the season, with Lonzo Ball's health being a question mark, with Craig Porter Jr. being unproven, right? So many different questions, so many different things to be answered for this Cavaliers team. So I was hoping against hope that in some form or fashion, if the team did not elect to sign a true five out there, that they would sign a guard the likes of Malcolm Brogdon, who could slot in very nicely with it at the one or the two. So it sucks to see that this dude is off the market now, and it sucks even worse to see that he's gone to the New York Knicks. We already know Malcolm Brogdon in serious playtime, in real game time action. Brogdon is a valuable contributor, right? He's been in the league now, I think I think this is going to be his 9th year, but his resume speaks for itself. He was part of the 2016-17 all-rookie team. He was rookie of the year that year. I don't think anybody expected him to win that award heading into that season. He was a 2022-23 sixth man of the year. He is a career 38.3% shooter from three-point distance on good volume, might I add. Roughly 4.2 attempts per game, and he holds career averages of 15.3 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 4.7 assists. This is a very good defender out on the court at that guard position. He has size to him, roughly 6'4", about 230 pounds out there, and yet another player that the Cavaliers will have to contend with across the court. Somebody that I thought would have fit in very nicely for this Cavaliers team, honestly. So it sucks to see that he has signed. Why does this require a live stream? I want to just get up on here and look at some of the options that are left, because they're dwindling down as the offseason wears down, right? We got basketball next month, guys. The regular season returns next month. Preseason is just a few short weeks away. And the Cavaliers, they still have roster spot 14 open. They still technically have roster spot 15 open. And we really don't know what they plan on doing. A lot of the free agents that we've heard noise on that they had interest in are either electing not to sign in Cleveland, waiting it out, or are signing elsewhere, right? Brogdon is just the latest in a long line of players that the Cavaliers have reportedly had interest in, right? Malik Beasley is another who could potentially be brought in, I suppose, but I still continue to feel like that's more of a pipe dream. But as more of these roster spots gets taken up, right, there's not much money flying around out there, if any at all, beside the veteran minimum that many teams can offer. There just aren't a lot of options on the market right now. So if you look at things as they stand, even at guard for the free agents right now, you have players like Gary Payton II, somebody who's been with the Golden State Warriors for a number of years. He had an opportunity elsewhere, but I just don't think that Gary Payton II at about 33 years old would fit well in Cleveland. You got somebody like Corey Joseph. No, it's a little bit too not to my liking. You see names like Russell Westbrook, who I would be fine with adding to the roster in a depth capacity, but I just don't see many fans being okay with that idea, honestly. And I just don't see Russell Westbrook himself willingly accepting a role, a non-playing role, right? Because Russell Westbrook at this stage in his career, at least in my opinion, can still be a valuable contributor out there. Now, come playoffs, that might be a little bit different because we know that his shooting struggles are well documented. But at the end of the day, these are some of the names the Cavaliers could be reckoning with. Now, a name that does sort of intrigue me out there outside of a potential Westbrook is Alec Burks, somebody who played with the Miami Heat last year and can still scorch the twine. I actually released content on Burks not too long ago, but in the 49 games that he appeared in last season, he shot 42.5% from the field for the Miami Heat on roughly 4.2 attempts per game. He's not somebody that's a well-noted defender out there, but if you need somebody that can simply fill in at the 2, sometimes at the 3, this is definitely somebody that I think can still be a contributor. And we already know that Burks has a certain familiarity with the Cleveland Cavaliers as he suited up with the team during the 2018-19 season for about 34 games or so, where he made 24 starts. But Burks is one of these guys with that 14th spot that I could definitely see being brought to town if some of the other locations that he could be potentially looking at dry up. If Miami does not elect to bring him back, if some of the other locations and venues out there do not end up panning out for an Alec Burks, this is definitely somebody that I could see potentially coming back to Cleveland on that 14th roster spot on the veteran minimum. Somebody that I think could add a lot of volume shooting to the squad. I mean, you're looking at Delano Banton, Lonnie Walker, Landry Shamet. These are just names. And of course, Ben Simmons is still a free agent. But listen, we just heard that Ben Simmons was let go by his agent. He didn't fire his agent. His agent basically fired him. Ben Simmons' agent basically said, "Nah, I don't want to represent you anymore. I don't think your heart is in it." Doesn't really seem like Ben Simmons wants to play basketball anymore. But I suppose he still is a free agent, somebody that, and I know a lot of people disagree with this, I would be okay with Ben Simmons signing in Cleveland simply because of the versatility from a positional and defensive standpoint that a player like Ben Simmons can offer you. Quite unique type of archetype that he has always been. But we know that his issues are well documented, whether that be mental struggles at times or the inability to shoot. I mean, basically, that's what they boil down to. In health, that's also something that is a big concern for Ben Simmons at this point in his NBA career at roughly 30 years old himself. Markelle Fultz is still out there as a free agent. Ilford Payton. There are some names on here that I wouldn't mind taking a swing at because, again, this is the 14th spot. This is not a guaranteed roster. This is not a guaranteed rotation spot at all. So I would be okay taking a flyer on some of these guys that could be deemed reclamation projects like a Josh Christopher or, maybe giving somebody like Mac McClung an opportunity. Hell, Emoni Bates is still a free agent out there. There are a number of players that I will be okay at least taking a flyer on at this point at guard. But if your mindset is you want to sign a center, things get even more dire because I think a lot of us out there, myself included, would like to see this team add a more traditional size center to back up the likes of Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, and to a lesser extent, a Larry Nance Jr., who is probably going to be the primary 5 off the bench as things stand right now. Al Horford remains a free agent, and we know all the news, everything that has been reported about Al Horford has been simply that he is waiting out what happens with this Jonathan Kuminga saga over in Golden State. And maybe that's still the case, but maybe you can talk him into signing on the veteran minimum in Cleveland. And then hypothetically, on paper, Al Horford would make a ton of sense for the Cleveland Cavaliers from a leadership standpoint, a rebounding standpoint, a defensive standpoint, a floor spacing standpoint. He does everything out there that you would want from your backup 5 and could fill in admirably in the event that one of Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley have to miss time during the regular season. This is somebody that I feel like would be a perfect fit for the Cavaliers. Have always felt that way, and I know that it's probably a pipe dream to envision him donning the wine and gold. But hell, I mean, at this point in time, there aren't a lot of open spaces left for players if they actually want to contribute on a contender. Tristan Thompson, as already mentioned, one of the players that the Cavaliers no longer have on the roster. He is still out there. Taj Gibson, DeAndre Jordan, I suppose I would be okay with at this point in time. Charles Bassey was just snagged. That sucks. Bismack Biyombo is another player that I will be okay with. That's basically it at this point in time at center, like traditionally sized centers that are on the veteran free agent market that would probably sign or be in that realm of possibility for the Cavaliers should they attempt to go that way. And just in case any of you forgot out there, this is the Cavaliers offseason so far. And mind you, this is not going to this is not counting some of the coaching hires that were made, right? We already know that the Cavaliers lost a couple of coaches during this offseason. They added Lonzo Ball. They added Larry Nance Jr. They added Tyrese Proctor. Those are the three new additions to the roster. They lost Ty Jerome to Memphis because they elected to re-sign Sam Merrill, as you see down there. They lost Isaac Okoro in that Lonzo Ball trade. They lost Javonte Green. Emoni Bates is no longer with the Cavaliers as of right now. Chuma Okeke is not a Cavalier anymore, and the aforementioned Tristan Thompson is no longer a Cavalier, at least as it stands right now. And then under the re-signed, as I mentioned already, Sam Merrill. That was one of the bigger decisions that this team made this offseason. Instead of bringing back Sixth Man of the Year finalist Ty Jerome, the Cleveland Cavaliers elected to re-sign Sam Merrill because they probably feel that he fits what Kenny Atkinson likes to do better, especially come the postseason. They feel like maybe he just fits the piece, he fits the puzzle a little bit better than Ty. Time will tell if that decision is going to be the correct one, right? Sam Merrill, I love Sam Merrill, is a sharpshooter. He is a better defender than given credit for, but Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome are two different types of players. The Cavaliers no longer have a bucket getter off that bench if you intend to start DeAndre Hunter. You do not have a trusted, tried and true ball handler out there the likes of Ty Jerome had been last year, in which he finished a Sixth Man of the Year finalist. So you're relying heavily on the idea, on the belief that as a cumulative group, the bench will be able to get it done, right? They are going to sacrifice some of that ball handling and scoring output that Ty Jerome gave you and balance things out from a defensive standpoint, from a rebounding standpoint, with the likes of Larry Nance Jr., Alonzo Ball, and Jalen Tyson taking a step forward, Craig Porter Jr., et cetera, et cetera. You're taking a big chance with that because you do not have that type of creation coming off your bench, especially if you attempt or you elect rather to keep DeAndre Hunter in that starting lineup. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what they end up doing here in terms of that bench makeup. But I'll say this, right? Yeah, you lost all these players. You added three. That's really it. That's what this boils down to. And so that's why I'm harping on this roster spot so much. That's why I'm harping on the Cavaliers figuring out what they're going to do with that 14th roster spot. And we already know, it's been reported that Cleveland is very likely to leave that last spot open, not only because of monetary reasons, right? The CBA and being a second apron team and what that means from a tax perspective. These are all reasons why they're probably taking their sweet time here. But I gotta say, it sucks to see some of these names that I felt could be potentially impactful for the team this year, not just as like, a depth piece, not just simply as roster filler, but there are certain players that were on the market prior to being signed that I felt could leap into that rotation, or at the very least be a fill-in, right? A spot rotation member if called upon that you could reliably contribute. And they're being taken left and right. I thought Charles Bassey would have been somebody that would have been able to contribute if called upon in the traditional center spot. If Larry Nance Jr. is unavailable or is struggling, or you want to go more matchup based against more traditionally sized fives out there. I thought that Malcolm Brogdon, much the same. Even if he's not within the rotation for the Cavaliers, I thought that he could have been a respectable addition, somebody that probably could have rivaled Lonzo and Craig Porter Jr. for minutes. And I get it. Listen, if the mindset here for the Cavaliers is to finally see what you have in Craig Porter Jr., if the mindset here is to make sure that Lonzo Ball knows that he is the unquestioned third guard off the bench and you don't have anybody vying for minutes and competing with him, I get it. But with the history of these players, like Lonzo is not like the poster child for health. Darius Garland is not the poster child for health. Craig Porter Jr. is not a surefire rotation player right now. He still has to definitively answer that. With Max Strus due to miss the first couple of months of the season, there was a reality in which whoever was signed at guard could potentially hop into that rotation and play themselves into big time minutes. But again, if the mindset is to see what you got in Craig, see what you have in Jalen Tyson, who we know can handle the rock, see whether or not Lonzo Ball can grip that third guard spot and just handle it throughout the duration of the year. I get it, but they got to go out and get somebody, right? Because the options here are just dwindling. And if the reality here is that they're just going to convert one of the two-way guys into that 14th spot, I can certainly understand that as well. Now, that has not necessarily been said, and it is to my belief that the Cavaliers will ride out that 50-game limit that they have for the two-way contracts, meaning if they intend to sign or rather convert the contract of a Naquan Tomlin or a Luke Travers to a standardized deal, I would believe, right? I would think that they would wait that 50-game limit and then make that decision for flexibility. You don't want to do it too quickly because from a monetary perspective, there's a lot of value in doing that. And not only in terms of what it means from having to actually hand out those dollars, but from a evaluation standpoint, you don't want to convert too early if you don't have to, regardless of how well you believe a player is going to be able to contribute at the next level. But if the idea here is to leave those spots open simply because you're going to convert them later on down the line during the season, I can understand that too. But damn, it sucks, right? Who the hell are they going to sign at this point as a lot of these options are just drying up? Again, there are still some names out there that I will be okay with, right? But as each day passes by, I become increasingly more and more distraught with the idea, or trying to search for the right word here. I'm becoming of the belief that it's just not going to happen for some of these players. Malik Beasley doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Russell Westbrook doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Bismack Biyombo, Al Horford, it doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Alec Burks, maybe, but it still just doesn't feel like it's going to happen. And again, I am 100% of the belief that Kobe Altman is trying. I never want to accuse that front office of like sitting on their hands or anything like that after some of the moves that we have seen. Very big fan of what he did with Lonzo, getting Okoro off the books, shedding $1 million worth of salary. I'm a huge fan of being able to sell Larry Nance Jr. on the idea of returning to play for the Cleveland Cavaliers, just because I felt like that was something that was a long time coming. I'm very happy with all of those moves. Not so much for letting Ty Jerome out the door, but he has earned the benefit of the doubt. Mike Gansey has earned the benefit of the doubt. And so I don't think they're not doing anything, but it does suck to see some of these names come off the board just because I feel like they could have contributed in some form or fashion for this team, especially with the injuries that they have already sustained with Darius, with Max. And you already know there's so many players on the roster that carry that injury prone labeling on them. Hopefully they can shed it this year, but that's the reality, that until they prove they can do it over the entirety of a season and remain healthy come the playoffs to some capacity, they're going to carry that labeling on them. Time will tell, right? And I do have the ultimate belief in this team that they'll be able to circumvent it. They'll be able to figure it out. But I would be lying if I told you I wasn't at least a little disappointed, because these are players that I legitimately feel are going to either add to the teams that they have signed with, or they're going to, at the very least, be somebody that the Cavaliers don't have access to. Even if Malcolm Brogdon doesn't play more than 10 minutes per game for the New York Knicks this upcoming season, it still would have been, to me, an L, just because this is somebody you probably could have rostered. But again, I do understand that it does take two to tango, and I think that is something that people perennially just don't have an understanding on, right? It's one thing for me to throw a contract out there to a player, ask him what is his interest level in signing, but it's a whole other thing for them to actually sign on the dotted line. It takes two to tango. You cannot force players to come to town, especially when there is no guaranteed role in the rotation, especially when there is no other money to be handed out other than a veteran minimum contract, and you're just competing. Just the opportunity to compete, even if it's for a ring, in which I think we all believe this Cavaliers team is going to take that next step this year and finally get out of the second round. It still may not be enticing enough for many of these free agents to sign on the dotted line, because one, they may not have an opportunity to play every day, and two, there is no guarantee of anything else than a veteran minimum. Maybe that's a hard sell. And it's Cleveland, right? Let's not, and I don't mean that disrespectfully. Obviously, this is Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. But what I'm saying is, it's not and has never truly been the most alluring destination in terms of like location. I think we all love Cleveland, but from the outside looking in, Cleveland probably just isn't viewed that way. And we would be kidding ourselves if we thought otherwise, just because traditionally that's never how it's really been in Cleveland, and that is also something that players consider, I'm sure, right? I'm just calling a spade a spade. I'm just being 100. But again, sucks to see yet another name off the board here. Hopefully Cleveland, Kobe, Mike Gainsey and company can figure it out, because as things stand right now, the options are just drying out. Even if you go to forward, right? You take the centers off the board, take the guards off the table. Some of the players that are still on the board in that fit the forward. If you want to bolster that position group, you have the likes of Trey Lyles, I think Precious Achua, who has been connected to a couple of different teams as of late. Jay Crowder is out there. I think Bull PJ Tucker still is somebody that could potentially be signed. I think Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Torrey Craig, Lamar Stevens, who I think signed in France for a team over in France this offseason. Just the names, they're not the most enticing, but hell, I mean, you got to take a chance on somebody at this point, I suppose, unless you're truly just leaving the doorway open for one of your young two-ways. And then that lies the question, if you do convert the likes of a Travers or a Tomlin, you still have an open two-way spot too. So if you do that, you now have two-way spots. So there are just questions going around left and right on, hey, what the hell are we doing here? Because you have right now, as it stands, you have two technical roster spots and you have one two-way spot. So we know that they elected to keep Tristan Enaruna in-house for the Cleveland Charge. They got the rights to his contract. They on an Exhibit 10, I believe, they have still ties to Norchad Omir, somebody that I wouldn't mind giving that final two-way spot to. There's just so many linked and intertwined things here and thoughts. Not to mention some of the names that they could potentially be bringing in for those final spots on the roster. It's just as every day goes by, I'm just questioning what the heck is the plan here. But I'm trying to remain patient, just because I feel like we've been in this spot before with these last spots, and maybe they won't help at all. But hell, depth. We have seen how important depth is for this team. We have seen how important depth is for health. Any sport. Injuries happen at the drop of a hat. So hopefully they're able to bring somebody in. Hopefully they're able to bring some name value to those final spots. But I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below. Who do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers should sign with not only that 14th spot, but in that final two-way spot? Who makes the most sense for this team? Who would you like to see be added? And is there a name out there, a dark horse that nobody has talked about that you feel could be either a contributor in the back end of the rotation or somebody that could add a veteran presence to the team? Or maybe a young player, maybe somebody who is not being thought of as deserving of an opportunity on the NBA level roster. Who do you think that should be? As always, go Cavs.